Ladies and gentlemen, let us further discuss frame rates and the next generation consoles. Both the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 have been having developers tweeting over them, raving over them, and members of the general public discussing on forums recently, and there seems to be a lot of backwards and forwards. A variety of different titles on Microsoft's Xbox One have been running sub 1080p, and a couple of them have been suffering from rather nasty frame rate drops. Meanwhile, on the PlayStation 4, a couple of titles are higher resolution, but they are still suffering from frame rate drops in regards to, say, Call of Duty. But is 1080p and 60 frames per second really going to be the golden standard for the PlayStation 4 in the future? Shahid Ahmad, who acts as Sony's Senior Business Development Manager, I'm having one of those days, and he's put a series of tweets together, and he has said there are two words you're going to be hearing a lot of when it comes to PS4, and together they change the game. And then he puts a couple of spaces and says 1080p, and then another paragraph break and says 60 FPS. Meanwhile, let us discuss another thing real fast. There has been some concerns because of the PlayStation 4's user interface. The UI on one of the machines was painstakingly slow, and a user decided to tweet Shuhei Yoshida and ask him, what's going on? Is it normally that slow, or should it be faster than that? And Shuhei actually responded and said, this is absolutely not normal. Something wrong with the unit itself, I think. And then, so he was asked once again to clarify, so would you say the retail UI would be a lot faster than that? And Shuhei just simply responded with a single word, yes. Okay, so is that the end to the story? Not quite. You may remember that the Xbox One version of Call of Duty Ghosts runs at 720p. And immediately the internet started to poke Microsoft with a stick, particularly because they then found out that it was suffering frames per second drops. However, turnabout is indeed fair play, because guess what happened next? You guessed it, folks, that the PlayStation 4 came along, and yes, it was running in 1080p, but there were also frames per second drops. And of course, there have been a plethora of different screenshot comparisons and so on between the two versions. But there's been a rather heavy embargo in terms of the footage of the Xbox One. And so, you would think, okay, well, both of them have similar frames per second, but the PS4 version is running at a high resolution. And that's about it, right? Well, one review seems to be flying completely in the face of that. Polygon have updated their review, and they are saying that, I'm going to just read out the quote for you guys, the two versions look nearly identical. Viewing the Xbox One release next to the PS4, I had difficulty telling them apart. It's possible the PS4 version looks somewhat sharper, but may have been my imagination after confirming the hard resolution difference. The next gen release of Call of Duty Ghosts are so close together, the gun into my head, I had not have confidence in discerning which version was which, at least while the two versions are standing still. However, he points out the Xbox One's release frame rate was far more noticeable, and he says that Call of Duty Ghosts suffers from constant FPS drops on the PS4, the Xbox especially during multiplayer. He said, however, that the Xbox One version suffers no such drops, maintaining a steady 60 frames per second throughout. Well, not quite sure exactly how to deal with that, because that's kind of flying in the face of other quotes. So I guess maybe it's possible that it's got something to do with version numbers, maybe, or maybe it's just his particular setup, or whatever. I have absolutely no idea. But one thing is for certain, right now, both machines still have a lot to prove, and I honestly think we won't really know that much until December-ish, maybe even January/February. I personally am gonna be very interested to see how the second generation of games fares. This first generation, You know, it's like, how seriously can you take it? And I don't mean that in a harsh way. I'm not criticizing what the developers are putting in. I simply mean that, well, it's, sorry guys, I just caught the desk there. It's kind of hard to actually judge it because one machine just may be a bit harder to get the most out of. But all I do know is right now it seems to be a lot of trading backwards and forwards. There's also cries that companies are paying money to review websites or websites as a whole for kind of comments. I don't know if that's true because I honestly, I'm not in their office. I do not have a ceiling cam. I do not, listen to each of their meetings. I don't know what the hell's going on. So there you have it. I would suggest, however, my personal gut feeling on this, if you're on the next gen fence, I would say wait. That's just my honest opinion. I would say it's not going to hurt you for the next couple of weeks, just, waiting, maybe even till next year. This current generation has a really, really good launch lineup this Christmas. And if you've got a PC, you're even better off. But that's just my opinion. So if you're really unsure about graphically, then I would just wait. But that's just my personal opinion. Anyway, I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.